What would you do if you lost everything? Your job, your home, your wealth, even the support of your closest loved one or friend. And we're told to curse God and die. True faith, worship in suffering and God's sovereignty, even in hardship. So let's unpack this powerful exchange and see what it means for our walk with God today. So to set the scene, let's give a brief recap of Job's story so far. We know Job was a righteous man who loved God, and Satan, our accuser, or in Hebrew, Hasatan, challenges God, saying Job only loves God because of his blessings, and God allows Satan to test Job by taking away his possessions, children, and health. So Job's initial response in Job 1:20, I know we're going off a little bit, but this is good stuff. Job's first reaction is to worship, tearing his clothes, shaving his head, and falling before God. This sets the tone for true worship, even for us now, thousands of years later. Praising God not for what he gives, but for who he is. So, shall we receive good from God, and shall we not receive evil? That is a quote from Job 2:9-10. When Job's wife tells him to curse God and die, Job rebukes her, saying, shall we receive good from God, and shall we not receive evil? So what are some key lessons from this? Means receive all from God. True faith means accepting both prosperity and hardship as coming from God's sovereign and just hand. God's character doesn't change with our circumstances. And as a result, we can't sin with our lips. Job refuses to speak sinfully or accuse God of wrongdoing at this point. In suffering, the tongue is often the first to fail. But yet, Job models restraint and reverence. When we're going through hard time, I'll put myself out there. When I'm going through a hard time, I like to yell. I like to just throw my pillow, throw a ball, do something, just get the anger out, And usually my tongue is first to fail. I like to yell. I'm working on it. But I'm a yeller. I can be a bit of a hothead sometimes. And that's just me. But this is the test of a close relationship. Sometimes temptation to doubt God comes from those closest to us. And when that does happen, that might mean cutting that person out of our lives. I'll let that sit in. Cutting that person out of our lives. Job did. Probably loving God, worshiping while everything was good, but then it gets bad and she tries to do it on her own. She tries to cut God out. But a stark contrast from Job, who represents those who love God for who he is. When he saw this, he rent his clothes in a humble state before God and prayed. He wailed to God. He cried out to God, asking for help. He asked why. Job's wife didn't do any of that. She just threw God out the window and said, screw you, bro. I don't care about you anymore. You're not blessing me. You're of no benefit to me. I don't care about you. So, as an application, do we worship God because he's worthy or because he blesses us? Because when blessings disappear, our true view of God is revealed. So, let's look at God's sovereignty and our spiritual growth. God has sovereignty over evil. Even Satan's attacks are under God's control. Satan had to ask God for permission. We went over that last time. God permits suffering, but uses it to display his glory and refine our faith. Another concept I brought up last time, where I used the example of Matthew, where where Jesus is and his disciples are walking, and there's this blind man on the road, and the disciples ask Jesus, who sinned, this man or his family, his parents? And Jesus said, neither. He is here to bring glory to me. And we went over that last time, and that applies here. God permits suffering, but uses it to display his glory and refine our faith. We can have spiritual growth through suffering. Suffering can deepen reliance on God and sanctify our hearts, but it can also, if dealt with the wrong way, draw us away, like Job's wife. Romans 8:28 reminds us that God works all things for our good, even pain. Now, I've felt pain before. I know how it feels. But something I know, a promise I can dwell on, is that all things work together for our good, even pain. And though we don't always understand his purpose, we can trust his promise. We have that promise of heaven. We always have something to look forward to. I wonder if while Job was suffering, trying to get his mind off his suffering, he looked to heaven. He thought of heaven and it's like, I'm going to be there and this will be all over. I wonder if he thought that. I wonder. It doesn't say, but I wonder. So let's do a little perspective shift. Let's learn from Job's example. So, personally, it's tough for me to read this passage without asking, how could God let this happen? But thinking on it, maybe that's the wrong question. Instead of focusing on why God allows suffering, maybe I should focus on how to respond in faith. Jesus' words in John 16:33, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And because of Christ's victory, we can endure all our trials with hope. So what's a main takeaway from all of this? Job's faith teaches us to receive everything from God's hands, good and bad, trusting his sovereign purpose. True worship is rooted not in blessings, but in belief. So I challenge you, praise God this week, even in something that feels difficult. And I'm going to remind you that worship and suffering is one of the most powerful testimonies of faith. So as a closing verse to close out the episode, James 1:2-4, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials. No, that's the A bit. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials. So thank you for listening to this one. This is another episode of the podcast. I hope the quality is getting better. I hope I'm getting better at this. And feel free to subscribe to the channel on YouTube at The Hard Bible Podcast, or follow me on Spotify at The Hard Bible. Thank you for all of this, you guys. Thanks for all the support. And as always, to God be the glory.